Percentages convert from fractions and decimals with number chips. This is the St. Patrick's Day version. So it starts out with explaining what percentages are. They're a comparison out of 100. So 45% means 45 out of 100. And so here's some common conversions for the students to see. 56 hundredths. If we write that as a fraction, 56 100ths, which is 56%, and so on. And one whole would be 100%. Now, starting on slide 3, students are going to be moving these number chips into the correct location, and every slide has all of the numbers they need. So if they get toward the end and numbers aren't working, then they know they've made an error and they need to go back and check. So this slide's pretty easy. It's a good practice slide for the students to move the chips. So all they need to do is click and hold on the edge, and while they're holding, then they can move this into place. So these are very simple: 59%, 23%, and 100%, so on. Now they're going to be shown another way to change from decimals to percentages is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So here we get 62%, 59%. Here we get 174%. And then here, because there's no number here, we have to add a 0. So this would be 30%, not 3%. So on the next slide, students are going to be moving the correct numbers into the correct places. So the first one's pretty easy, 65%. The second one, they have to know that they're going to add a 0, so that would be 70%. Here would be 230% if they move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and so on. Now to change a fraction to a percent, they want to change their fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So that's the first method. So to do this one, 9/20th, we just multiply the numerator and denominator by 5. That gives us 45 hundredths, which is 45 hundredths as a decimal, 45%. So the next few slides, students are going to be doing that. They're going to be converting to equivalent fractions with 100 in the denominator, then change it to a decimal, then to a percent. So slide 8, slide 9. When they get to slide 10, well, sometimes they can't convert it directly to a fraction with 100 in the denominator. They may need to simplify first. So 18/40ths, I can't multiply 40 times anything and get 100. So if I simplify my fraction, divide numerator and denominator by 2, I get 9/20ths. Then I can convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, and then I can change it to a decimal and a percent. So the next couple slides, students are going to be doing that. They're going to be simplifying their fraction. So here they divide by 3. They're going to get 2/5. Then they can convert it to a fraction with 100 in the denominator. Multiply by 20. That'll give them 40 hundredths. And then 40 hundredths as a decimal, 40%. You'll be doing that on the next slide also, simplifying first. Now, if they can't change it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, so here they can't simplify it, they can't multiply 8 times anything to get 100, they're going to have to use long division. So this is 5/8, which is 5 divided by 8, and just gives some example of how to do that long division, and then they're going to move their decimal point 2 places to the right to get their answer of 62.5%. So the next slide, most of the division is done for them. They just have to complete the numbers here at the top. So 8 goes into 10 one time, which is 8. Subtract, you get 2, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20 two times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the last 0. And 8 goes into 45 times. So now they have their decimal answer. They just have to move their decimal point 2 places to the right. And here there is a decimal point for them to move. So they have to know in what location that decimal point's going to go, and they move the decimal point into place. The very last slide, they've got to do all of the division on their own. They've got all the numbers they need, and just make sure they move that decimal point into the correct place in the answer. So that is percentages, converting from fractions and decimals with number chips, the St. Patrick's Day version.